Guess what, friend on YouTube? You get to see a little bit behind the scenes of Folding with Friends. Because I haven't turned the other platforms on yet. Let's see if I can go live. Live. Can I do that? No, I want to go live. Yeah, well. Okay, YouTube, get ready. Let's do this. Let's go. What's up, everybody? ADHD Coach Ryan here, and we're going live. We're about to do some laundry. Roberto Placco's here. Tara Sowen's here. ADHD Sex Workbook is here. I literally forgot she was coming. This is great. So funny. Oh my goodness.
Hi.
It's Dr. Lynn. What's up?
Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Feeling slightly embarrassed because, this is a judgment-free zone, so let me rewind. I'm really fascinated by my own ADHD because it's hilarious. I literally forgot you were coming. And I'm like, oh, great. ADHD Sex Workbook is here. Oh, that's right. So it was just funny.
What are you talking about?
Well, and I was, admittedly, I was trying to go live on several other platforms, but we're only going to be live on 3 at once. So I don't know, maybe that's a topic we talk about later, but first, I just want to say I'm so excited that you're here. We're going live on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So for those who are joining for the first time, just drop a number 1 emoji in here or raise your hand or wave or something. I'm ADHD Coach Ryan, certified ADHD coach, neuroinclusion consultant, and facilitator. And I am so excited to welcome one of my newest friends in the ADHD world, who I met at the 2024 International ADHD Conference, Dr. Lynn Pache. And this is literally how I hyped you up last week on Folding with Friends. Oh, good. We got, hey, Steve. Hi, just me here the first time. We're so happy you're all here.
Hi, everybody.
Hang around. We're going to be talking about sex. I mean, what could be better? But I said to hype you up, I was like, I have literally never experienced, I've never been so impressed by someone who was able to talk about sex in such a way where I never felt uncomfortable in a large audience of people. Because part of it is I went there, I'm like, I got to see this. Like, I just got to see like how is this going to even turn out? We're doing a presentation in a group of people with ADHD about the intersection of sex and ADHD. Like this, I got to see. And Dr. Lynn didn't disappoint. It was just so informative, and I felt really empowered and better educated coming out of it. So I said to Dr. Lynn, I'm like, we got to get you to come hang out folding with friends. Besides, we're here in the bedroom. So it just kind of made sense to me.
Well, thank you so much for those kind words. It's always so much fun to talk about this stuff. And, we've got the bed, we've got the bedroom. We're going to check for squeaks because, that's super distracting. There's all sorts of fun things we can be doing here.
Well, I'm so excited to tell everyone, you got to have fun in the bedroom. So that's why we gamify it. So right here, we have our time timer. So if anybody is joining for the first time, my wife, Andrea, who I'm going to be joined by here momentarily, she's working on getting the kids down to bed, which is the part of the reason why I was a few minutes late. We fold our laundry live every week, every Tuesday at 8:45 p.m. Eastern. And it's dawned on me towards the end of 2024. I'm like, we call this folding with friends, but we're not inviting enough friends. So Andrea and I will be here. We'll be doing our laundry, but I just want to tell you, if you're here, maybe it's for a reason. Not only is it about ADHD and sex, because you're going to hear from Dr. Lynn Pache in just a minute, but maybe there's some things that you've been avoiding that you want to work on while we're here. While we're doing our laundry, you might have some laundry yourself, or maybe you just have that thing that you've been meaning to get to. So whatever the case is, we're so glad you're here. You belong here. It's a safe space. So yeah.
Yay.
And how we normally start, Dr. Lynn, is we talk about some positives in our lives that have been happening lately. So it's just like with my group coaching that I do. Sometimes for those of us who are neurodivergent, it's so easy to focus on what's not going well. So we're very intentional about, hey, let's talk about what's good. And that's sometimes literally the hardest part of my coaching calls for my clients, is to think about what's actually not a dumpster fire in their life. So I would love to know for you, what are some positive things happening?
Well, the really cool thing, when I met you, Ryan, you started talking about budgeting and introduced me to people who do ADHD budgeting. And so yesterday I actually sat down. I'm trying to do once a week, an hour, so it's like not overwhelming, and just actually take care of finances and do the things. Wow. And so I did it yesterday, and I was very, very pleased with myself. I'm like, you know what? This 60 minutes rolled by really fast. Set the timer, got it done, and it's way less scarier than I thought it was going to be. So and
isn't that the case with so many things with ADHD? Yeah. And I mean, for anyone, but I'll say especially for those of us with ADHD, I have chills right now, just like how powerful it can be to really just set aside some time, stare that task right in the face, and just get it started. And a few minutes in, you realize, oh, wait, this isn't that bad. Why was I avoiding this?
Yeah. And there's a lot of verbal muttering, as you're like, for me anyway, I talk to myself. And I'm like, yeah. But, I'm entertaining. So that's okay. I got it done.
Well, and it's I want to say funny, but ironic, because once a month on Folding with Friends, we bring our friend, Coach Stephanie Berman, onto the show, and she is a certified money coach. So her handle on Instagram, if you're not already following, check her out, is your neurodivergent money coach. And she helps people all the time, and is originally from Canada. So she just such a nice person, and we met at the conference a few years ago and have been close friends ever since. But she'll be so happy to hear that you were looking at that now. And it's cool. What she always says, and I'm a big proponent of this too, is just figuring out like where is the money going, and also like assigning it a place to go, or if you're trying to figure out where did it all go, like looking at your purchases and figuring out like, okay, what did I spend it on? And is that something I need or something that was just kind of an impulse purchase?
Well, and you need to have a category that's like sex toys, condoms, there's lingerie, there's stuff there that can be really helpful.
Exactly.
Then you're good to go.
Because that way, if you break it down by that category, you can set the money aside and that's not even a problem.
You got it. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. So anyway, that's my positive. I'm sure other people have things to throw out there.
Yeah, and would love to have people share in the chat, what are some of the positive wins that have happened in your life? We want to celebrate it with you. One that I will celebrate is we have the Boy Scouts of America here in the US, and I know that they're probably all over the place, but anyway, every year they have a race that's called the Pinewood Derby, and it's just this little block of wood that you carve into a car, and our son is 7. I am not, depending on how we're going with the direction of our conversation, sometimes I am good with my hands, but when it comes to like being handy around the house, that's just not my thing. And like tools and woodworking, not my strong suit, but I was able to help our son. And we came up with a really cool car, and he ended up getting second place, and he was one of the top 2 best in show for his Santa's Spoiler is what his car was called. But more importantly than like winning or anything, it was just seeing how happy he was and getting to go through that process with him was really cool. So that's my win that I'll share.
Yay. That's awesome.
Another question that we ask to get crowd engagement, Dr. Lynn, is we'll ask everyone, where are you tuning in from? So I'm here in tropical Cleveland, Ohio. Put in the comments, where are you tuning in from? And Dr. Lynn, how about you? Where are you coming to us from tonight?
I'm in Vancouver, BC.
Wonderful.
And so, yeah, see if there's some other Canadians with us today. It's still early for us, so I'm just wrapping up my workday here. But so sadly, my clothes are not getting folded.
Well, that's okay. We still appreciate you being here with us to talk over this stuff. I think one question just to start off with.
Okay, hold on. There's somebody else from Canada. Whoop whoop.
Yeah, there we go. Shout out to the Canadians, our friendly neighbors up north. And that was hi, it's just me. Hi, just me. Where are you from in Canada? Hi, just me. All right, we've got Nashville, we've got Orlando. All right, let us know where else everybody else is. Okay, we got a Michigander. Cody the Michigander's here. Someone else over on TikTok says, what do you have for someone who has ADHD and has a hard time cleaning up their room? Ooh, that's a great question. One article at a time. There's a rule that I happen to live in Cleveland, Ohio, but there's a rule that's called the Ohio rule, and it's only handle it once. So pick it up and then only handle it once, because we tend to have the doom piles, another acronym, didn't organize, only moved. So what's up, Asaraf? Good to see you, brother. So anyway.
And when you think about that, a clean room, Ryan, one of the things that helps or creates distractibility during sex is clutter in your room.
Really?
So maybe that's motivating to think about, if you do kind of actually get rid of the doom pile and you do some of that stuff, it's a little easier to create that sexy vibe.
Larks, did you hear that? You can get some more
What?
sexy vibes just by cleaning up your room. So that could be motivation.
It is motivation. I think it's so sexy when my husband keeps things tidy.
There you go, right? And there's research saying that is absolutely true. You're gonna get laid more if you do the dishes, if you do some of the chores.
I love it.
You want to gamify that. I think there's a lot of fun ways you could do that.
Dr. Lynn, Andrea,
Hi,
Dr.
Andrea.
Lynn.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
We're so excited to have you. And we were just all sharing good news, Andrea. So we want to keep up with that tradition. So Dr. Lynn shared that she was working through her budget.
Cool.
And I said I was celebrating Ethan's successful Pinewood Derby. What is something that's good news for you?
Yeah, that Ryan's brother and our sister-in-law welcomed a little boy into the world. So we got to go down to Cincinnati, Ohio and meet our new nephew this past weekend.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. So the question I wanted to kick it off with, Dr. Lynn, is ADHD and sex. Like, what led you to get to this? Like, it's just when you were handing out pens at the conference that just say ADHDsex.com, I'm like, this is advertising all by itself. Like,
well, I've worked as a psychologist for 25 years now, and I've always been really interested in sexual therapy and working with people on their sexual health. And I've really done that my whole career. This is just something that's super interesting to me. And so I'm late diagnosis ADHD. And so once I got to know ADHD a bit more and realized, that intersection between the two and started asking, well, who's talking about this? Because obviously these things go together.
yes.
And, there really wasn't a lot of talk about ADHD and sex. And the research is new, which is part of it. And I think clinically, it's just not the pieces that maybe we didn't put together that we need to. So the nice thing is there's way more people talking about it now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I really like sex and sexual therapy, and I really like ADHD. And so it kind of just feels like, putting M&Ms in your popcorn, like it all just kind of works.
I love that. Putting M&Ms in your popcorn. That's phenomenal. And the fact that it's kind of new, like there's not that many people doing the research. It's new and novel and interesting too. So that appeals, to an ADHD brain too.
Right. As far as ADHD and sex research, are you referring to to Ari Tuckman's work?
Yeah, so Ari kind of got that ball rolling. And then there's new research that kind of keeps coming out. I feel like every few months these days, but for sure in the last year or two, that really is outlining some of these things around, ADHDers having difficulty with distractibility or sexual impulsivity. I mean, it's all stuff that if you're an ADHDer, and I think if you've been working in mental health for a long time, you see it and you know it, but it's almost like we didn't have the labels,
Right.
What happens when you're distracted during sex? Well, you might have problems with erections, or you might not get to that orgasm. What happens when you're bored during sex? And how in the world do you talk about that?
Yeah.
And it happens for ADHDers. And, on the flip side, we have ADHDers who aren't that interested in sex. So if your hyper focus is, I don't know, folding clothes or cleaning up, you might never put it on your to-do list.
Right.
And sex becomes something that you're not that interested in. So, like everything else for us, I think you've got things that you're really into and things that you're not into at all. And we end up, I think, as a community, having people on both ends of that.
It's such a good point, because I feel like everything is relative and on a bit of a spectrum. So it would only make sense that people's interest in sex would fall into that too.
Absolutely. I really like talking about variation, right? So if I'm going to go to work and I always take the same road,
Yeah.
you know, within a couple weeks, I'm going to be bored to tears and it's just going to be awful dry.
And
But
it's
if
going to be like you're on autopilot. Sorry to cut you off. I was just.
Yeah. No, it's good. Well, exactly. An autopilot sex sucks.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a lot of fun. But if, you know, one day I take the country road and the next day I take the highway, and maybe the day after that I take the bus, and the day after that maybe I take an Uber or somebody drives me, like, you're creating variety, and then getting to work is not so painful. I don't know about those of you out there, but I know for me, that's really one of the ways that I manage that. Driving can be super boring. It's the same thing sexually, is how are you creating that variety and talking to your partner about it? Because that can be really tough.
If you're just joining us right now, we're talking with Dr. Lynn Pache from ADHDsex.com. And Dr. Lynn, can you say what your official title is? I want to make sure I say it correctly. Is it just sex therapist or?
Yeah, you've got it right. So I'm a psychologist and I've worked in sexual therapy. So I've done sexual therapy for 25 years.
Amazing.
And so this is my, I don't know, can we call it midlife? I don't know. Maybe I think I'm past midlife, but
well,
no retirement plans, exciting project of next
year. It could be the thing that you're excited about right now. That's what
absolutely.
I like asking people that, like at a networking event or at a conference. I'll say, you know, what are you excited about right now? Instead of what do you do for work? But yeah, that's amazing. Well, what do you think would be some of the kind of high level things that might be helpful to put out there to raise some awareness?
Well, you know, I keep looking at your bed and I keep wondering, does this bed squeak? And if it squeaks, how distracting is that to you? You feel free to answer or not.
No. Thank you. And thank you for giving me the freedom to answer or not. I am so excited to say that this is.
You said you weren't handy.
This is new. This is our first new bed of our entire marriage.
Wow.
And we've been married 11 years. So we inherited the last one. So I'm pretty sure that the mattress was older than me. And I'm turning 40 this year. So that one definitely had more problems and would be considered a little more unstable. But this one, solid.
Nice.
Yeah. No distractions there.
When you go to the mattress store, it always amazes me that they don't really have it set up to test for these things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you need something that is solid, that's not going to make noise, that's not distracting. I'd be super curious to find out, you know, for those of you who are with us, what are some of the distractions that get in your way? You know, some of the main ones are like the bed frame, if you hear people outside or dogs barking, right, that just kind of get right in your way.
Yes.
And it's okay to be distractible during sex. Like, it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It's just this ADHD brain that we've got, and then how do you work around it?
So in my group coaching, we get to this quite often, talking about the acceptance piece. Like, I always tell my clients that the first step to be able to be coachable is to have radical acceptance that ADHD just is. It just is. Like, if you're left-handed, for example, like, you could go through your life being really mad that you're left-handed and keep trying to use your right hand. But once you just accept, hey, I'm left-handed and that's how it is. I need to buy a baseball mitt that goes on the other hand. You realize, okay, this is just how I am, who I am, and it's okay. So I love that you say that it's all right and like we can handle it basically.
Absolutely. And, you know, being able to handle it is part of that. I think that's the easy part. Like once the ADHDer kind of gets that it's a thing, I find that as a community, the creativity is wild.
Yeah.
Of like all the things that people come up with to sort things out. You know, the other thing that comes up a lot, so there's distractibility, and then there's this business of sensory issues. And all the like icky things, sorry, my face, but the icky things that you might experience during sex. And again, we don't tend to talk about that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm sorry, how distracting is the wet spot?
Yeah.
It is at least so freaking distracting, right? Am I going to have to do more laundry and then fold this with Ryan? How am I going to deal with this? Who's stuck on it? How does that work?
Yeah.
It's a big pain in the butt. But, you know, once you realize that that's one of your bugaboos, then you kind of go, okay, how do I figure this out? There's a blanket. There's a bunch of stuff. Heck, there's a shower. Showers gets rid of a lot of distractions.
And I think you actually talked about that. I'm remembering now from your presentation at the 2024 conference that there's actually a few products that you recommend. You're like, hey, I'm not endorsed by any of these or anything, but that you might want to look into, like a sex blanket.
Sex blankets are the best.
And so in case someone doesn't know what in the world that is, can you describe it for our audience?
Sure. It's really just a waterproof blanket, but it feels like a regular blanket for those of you who have like textural things.
Yeah.
I hear that sometimes they're being like, that you might actually have like, oh, this is a dog blanket, sort of like packaging and stuff these days. In the olden days, this was like fairly specific.
Yeah.
But I find that more companies are just providing these. And so you would just put it down like you would do any other blankets on your bed, but this one absorbs.
Love it.
And so there is no more wet spot. It's just gone.
Yeah.
How nice is that? Right?
Well, with us having 3 children under the age of 8, we've had to change out plenty of bedding, and it's no matter if it's grown-up bedding or little kid bedding, it's always annoying. So the fact that there be something that can prevent that for the grown-up bedding, we'll take it. We have enough laundry to do.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Do other people have
Yeah, I'm so glad. All right, let's see. Shout out to Ryan for inviting 6. Oh, well, thank you, Sean. And so this is Executive Function Sean, Executive Funk Sean. You may have met him, Dr. Lynn. It's Sean McCormick from the ADHD conference. He and I, he was on the top 3. I think there's probably 5 people, yourself included, that really had a huge impact on me from the 2024 conference, and Sean was one of them. He's helping to plan an event. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called Neurodiversion 2025. It's the maiden voyage for this thing. It's in Austin, Texas. And speaking of variety, we're keeping things weird because in Austin, that's their kind of motto. And there's going to be several hundred people with ADHD there. And it's a celebration of neurodiversity. It's like a less serious conference, to come together. So you can check.
Like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Now
So
I'm thinking about, so what kind of kinky sex, Sean, are you like including there? Maybe that's not an appropriate.
yeah, there you go. Because I told Sean, I'm like, I said, hey, the more you can tell people about what's happening at Neurodiversion, the more we can get people to go. So if talking about sex, baby, is part of it, I think ticket sales may just skyrocket.
Exactly.
That's
So I
hilarious.
love this. I see a comment that's like, where can I get this blanket? I share an Amazon account with my parents. And that is a great example of where, as an ADHDer, we get stuck.
Yes.
Right? So
Yeah.
I want this thing now. How do I go about doing it? Honestly, I suspect that your cheapest bet is to get it through Amazon, but it's probably time for you to have a different, separate Amazon account. And, maybe that's the sexy Amazon account.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And maybe this person is like, wants to keep with their parents if they just have one Prime account, but if you can wait, like 4 or 5 days for the sexy blanket, you can get free shipping on Amazon if you have an order of like over $32. So maybe throw in like some granola bars.
Throw in some granola bars. Or in this case, Dr. Lynn might have some other products to recommend besides granola bars.
Yes.
But anyway, the point is, you don't have to order it through that account. Or I know that this is one of our community members who put that in there. Spoiler alert, they probably know you have sex already. So it's like, hey, mom and dad, like, don't worry about it. It is what it is. I'm a grown up.
Well, maybe they're not ready for that conversation. And that's
Well,
okay.
all I'm saying is it could be time for that. That's all.
I've had my share of embarrassing Amazon cart experiences where you're like, I'm old. I didn't really realize everybody connected to the family could see what your orders were, what you bought, or,
Yeah.
hey, related to this search, here is this.
Buy it again. And it's like, wait, I didn't buy that. So if I didn't, well, hey, did you buy this? That's
what
funny.
Was this thing? Oh my gosh. There's so many things about ADHD and sex that are, I think, really important and interesting. And I'm thinking about, you were talking about the shower sex earlier and the sensory stuff. If there's things that you find that texturally that aren't comfortable, or even just that overwhelm, somebody was talking about the cluttered bedroom.
Yes.
And if you can't get yourself to move the doom piles, then just move sex into another area.
There you go.
There's closet sex is fabulous. And, there's less things that can kind of get in your way. It's a smaller space.
Sure.
I love that.
Sex, right? Bathrooms are generally a little bit less chaotic.
Yeah.
Unless you're in my house, but generally speaking.
Yeah, in general.
Yeah.
Shower stalls are really much less chaotic. So there's ways to create really small spaces in your home that can be that distraction-free sex zone.
And honestly, regardless of if it is sex or other tasks with ADHD, like this is such a big aha moment for a lot of people, is getting rid of that clutter so you can really focus in on a specific task, whether that's sex or whether that's doing a budget or whether that's sending that email, getting your phone out of arm's reach and, clearing some of the piles away. Like at the end of the workday, this is a little bit of an aside, but it's related.
No, it's super related. Yeah.
That I really try to take some time to clear my desk, like clear the decks. Cause it's amazing how during the day with our ADHD brains, like sometimes I look at it and I'm like, wow, how did this all get out here? But it's usually because I was showing this to a client, or I was drawing an example, or like I brought in my coffee and then I had lunch and then there's a couple of cups of things here. So then it's just like a big mess. And if I just say, oh, I can't, then I come in the next day and it's overwhelming. Whereas when I do clear it off, it's just so much easier.
So, I mean, it's totally true. And I think that completely applies to sex. When you're thinking about the activities that you can get into sexually that are more overwhelming and less overwhelming, right? And I don't know that I've ever, you don't think about it in that way. Somebody, and I've been giving a talk on this, and somebody brought this up, and I just thought it was brilliant. I said, okay, I'm going to be using this. But, certain positions, like 69s, are a great example where there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on.
Right? it's not real great for a lot of us with ADHD. There's too many sensory inputs, there's too many things you're doing at the same time. And so just acknowledging some of that stuff allows us to have more of that acceptance, and then doing the things that actually feel good, that aren't completely overwhelming us because we're trying to, provide pleasure and receive pleasure and do everything at the same time. And, there's just too many things happening. So you don't want the understem where you're bored, but you also don't want that overstem where there's so much going on that you can't process as well anymore, and you lose that pleasure,
That is such a great point. And like you said, it increases the acceptance, and I think helps to reduce the shame too of like having the conversation with your partner about, hey, this particular position or this thing doesn't work for me because it's too much. But again, getting back to the very beginning of like, hey, if you're left-handed, that's just how you are. And so we can be, as those of us with ADHD, we are very sensitive to a lot of things, and we can get overstimulated easily. So if a certain aspect of sex isn't working, then have a conversation about it, and it's okay.
Absolutely. And, I know some people really find those conversations difficult. Like, I'm often asked, how do you talk to your partner about this?
Right.
But I think, the upside about this ADHD and sex bringing together, this like pulling together of these concepts. And, I talk about this a lot in the workbook, is like, if you have the label of if you can identify it, then you can fix it, right? But because we haven't talked about these things together, many people don't have the vocabulary, the labels, the things to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So you want me to have a conversation with my partner, but I actually can't even articulate what's icky.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that the more we talk about this and the more people read up on this and, work through the workbook, and it's like, oh, there's language that I can use, and now I can actually have the conversation.
There's so much to that. I love it, because Andrea and I will speak to engaged couples, and in fact, we have a couple coming over to our house this week from our church, and we're going to be talking just about all things about marriage, including intimacy. And what we always tell couples for any topic really is, hey, your partner is not a mind reader. So if something's bothering you, speak up about it. Like, we've had way too many fights where we just don't say anything, and then we get upset with each other, and then when we find out why the other person's mad, it's like, oh, yeah, we definitely should have just talked about that. That was kind of silly.
Absolutely.
So it's so powerful, and it reminded me of name it to tame it. So like you said, when someone's able to finally articulate what the thing is that's bothering them.
And, articulating it can be as simple as, I like using good, bad, yucky.
Yeah.
Like, it's that simple, right? This is a good feeling. This is a bad feeling. This is a yucky feeling. Okay, we're clear. It doesn't have to be like prose and like, a 3-hour conversation.
Yeah.
Because it gets overwhelming, and you kind of end up missing the point at some point in that. Anyway.
Yeah. Totally get that. Now, I know obviously at the end, I was going to make sure we talk about this, but you talked a little bit about this workbook you keep mentioning.
Yeah, I'm so excited about the workbook.
and so am I. And I want to make sure that you can talk a little bit about it, because maybe not everyone would be able to work with you personally. So how the heck would you be able to help them?
Well, and that, is part of actually part of why I wrote it. It's funny that you say that. But in all seriousness, there's just so much time that I have in a day, or that anybody has in the day. And I really think that information is power, and information needs to be shared. And it doesn't do me any good to think about these things and research these things and not pass that information along, right?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, just like the info dumping. So it's so funny. So I have a copy here because I have to I have to humbly apologize.
Yes.
So this is the workbook.
Yes.
This is the thickness of the workbook.
Oh my golly.
And so I am sorry. I didn't realize it was going to be so big. I got real excited.
So what you're saying is you got excited, it got bigger, and now it's really thick.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Coach Ryan.
Yeah.
Right there.
Okay. Well, when you just whipped it out and showed everyone, I agree. It's way bigger than I expected.
I got excited.
It got excited. So, you can jump around in there. You don't have to look at all the things. You grab the chapters that are relevant to you. I'm going to try to put together some sort of body doubling club or something, because I realized when it came in that I was like, oh, yeah, okay. This is that ADHD moment, right? You're like,
Yeah.
Everything I've ever known about this is in this book.
Yes.
Wow. So when you
And I had a great time writing it. It was really fun to do. So, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So
when you mentioned workbook, is it like fill in the blank? Like you write stuff into it, like how you're feeling and your favorites and everything like that? Oh, that's cool.
You got it. Yeah. I mean, it's the other part of why it's so big. Yeah. Because there's a lot of space in there for writing.
Yeah.
And then there's like, at the end of each chapter, there's like a list of things that you want to work on. And I kept pushing for more spacing.
Yeah.
More lines, more space.
I love that.
Right? And the poor editors are like, can we just, no, more space.
So where can people find this magical workbook you speak of?
Oh, it's on Amazon. And, so actually you get in your sex blanket, you throw in a workbook.
And then it gets free shipping.
And then you get free shipping.
Add it to your sexy Amazon account.
That's hilarious.
But I'd love to get people's feedback and comments.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of these things that I wanted to keep growing and improving. And I love all these growing things. I'm like, we just have all these analogies, right? So the more that it can get tweaked and worked on and I get comments back, then the more it can just kind of keep improving. But it was so much fun to write, I gotta say. Yeah. Just questions, like what was your favorite sexual activity? Like your favorite sexual event, right? Like when you think about your sex life, what was the best time? And I suspect that for many of us, that's going to be related to this idea of there wasn't any distractions. I was really zoned in. There was enough intensity to keep it interesting. I wasn't bored. Just the stuff that we don't articulate so much, but that are so important.
And I would venture to say it's similar to what a lot of my clients experience when we're coaching, and I just give them that space to have what in our ADHD coach training they call the power of the pause. So just being able to really stop for a second and think, because I think to your point earlier, you talked about like autopilot sex. And when you take that same route to work, or if you're doing the same route in the bedroom, it can get boring. So unless you have something like your workbook to disrupt it, to really actually think about it, you may never take a different turn or a different route.
And taking those turns and routes can be pretty scary because you're trying new things and you might not know exactly how it goes. And this idea of like the perfect sexual performance is just crap in a box. Like it's not a thing. If you're playing and having a fun time playing, that's really what sex is about.
Yeah.
And just getting back to play. And, ADHDers do play really, really well.
Yeah. I love that you said crap in a box. I've never heard that term, but I'm going to start using it. You know what? That's just some crap in a box.
You got it. That's just crap in a box. It's not a thing.
That's so funny. When you're working with your clients or patients, you said distractibility and clients. You said distractibility and sensory things. Are there any other kind of like broad categories that that
there are about, like, I would say there's about 6 or 7 like broader categories, and the workbook's really lined up in that way.
Yeah.
The other one that comes to mind is interoceptive awareness. So that connection with your body, right? Really hard for many of us in the neurodivergent community, how we're connecting with our body, feeling our body, right? Is it time to go to the bathroom? Who knows?
Right.
Am I hungry? I don't know. Am I full? Who knows? You're asking me 2 hard questions. So, sex is all about this connection to your body. And so how do you do that? And one of the ways that we tend to do that really well is with hard touch. So, that feeling when and I'm so not techie, you guys. I'm holding my phone, so I'm just going to bring it out here.
Yeah.
But when you're like, no, you're not going to see this. Do you know when you're like just getting like the smooth pat down?
Yeah.
Right? And for some of you, you might think after a while, I'm like really done with that feeling. Right? I start thinking about changing the cat litter, and I start thinking about birth.
Yeah.
Maybe I fall asleep. Like it's just too much.
Yeah.
Now, if you take that same touch and you slap somebody's butt, right? Or we're just going to go with slap somebody. Just hit somebody in a playful way. Let's be very clear.
Yeah.
But you're going to get way more of a spark. You're going to get way more attention into what you're doing. And so I think this idea of interoceptive awareness and the difficulties that we can have with touch and needing harder touch is, again, an easy way to talk about if you allow yourself and say, I'd rather have a hard touch than a soft touch when we're having sex.
Right.
Right? And can you say that without feeling like there's something wrong with that particular reality?
And again, it comes back to acceptance. Like if that is something that's going to help a person to be more engaged when they're with their most important person, or whichever person they're with, like, why wouldn't you speak up about that? Or I shouldn't say it that way because it's hard to speak up about it, but you can tell how helpful it would be to be able to speak up about it.
Yes. Yeah. It's all about following pleasure and doing the things that feel good. But if you're doing that while you're telling yourself, well, this shouldn't feel good, or I don't want it to, or, there's rules the way I have to do this. I always compare sex to eating a hot fudge sundae. If you're eating a hot fudge sundae, you want to just enjoy the sundae. And if you're thinking about the calories, and if you're thinking about the fact that maybe you shouldn't be eating it, if you're thinking about, what you're going to look like tomorrow after you've eaten it, there's no fun in that hot fudge sundae anymore.
I love that. It's a great comparison. Do you think, I don't know, honey, do you have any thoughts or questions or things that you think would be helpful?
What would you say would be your number one piece of advice for couples with ADHD in the bedroom?
Permission, interestingly enough. I didn't think I was going to say that. So there you go. But permission around exploration and permission around what feels good. Can I explore? Is it safe to explore? Can I explore fantasy? Can I explore things that are increasing my arousal from a place of permission? Because there you're going to get to some of these places, these things that are more novel, more exciting. And where I find that people get in trouble or they get a little lost is there's so many barriers of lack of permission that happens that you never get to the process of actually figuring out what's turning you on.
Yeah.
And the permission goes the other way. What turned you on today probably won't turn you on in 6 months, or might not, I should say.
Yeah.
Turn you on in 6 months. And so it's also the permission to be like, well, yeah, I thought that was hot and it was hot when we were doing it. But now my brain's kind of like, yeah, okay, so now what?
Yes.
And that's where I think people get into trouble, because it's like either they're not giving themselves permission, or if they want to say, well, I don't like that anymore, or can we switch it up, or I would prefer something different than you. There's a lot of permission that you have to give yourself to acknowledge that out loud, right? Acknowledging it for yourself, acknowledging it for your partner.
Totally.
And then your partner saying, okay, I can hear that without it being, I did it wrong.
Right.
Right?
And I really liked the analogy that you used earlier about like taking a different route to work. So, all right, normally you're taking the highway, which gets you there the fastest. Nobody wants to get there that fast. So maybe you took the mountain roads, so that, you know, it's curvy and windy and different. But to your point, maybe in 6 months, it's like I'm getting over the mountains, so to speak. Like I'm not enjoying this ride anymore. We got to switch it up. Can we take a different route?
Yes. And it's not because you didn't like the mountain road before.
Right.
And it's not because the mountain road did anything wrong. It's about novelty.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, to answer your question, the more that novelty is allowed and encouraged and talked about, then a lot of this stuff becomes, I think, a lot easier.
Yeah.
Right? It's not meant to be complicated. Despite the fact that I wrote like a bloody lot of pages about it, it's really meant to be super simple.
Well, it's a labor of love that you did, but it's also a labor of love. Like there's a lot of puns in there, but it's like that it's worth it. Having that conversation, having that exploration of this thing that might feel uncomfortable at first.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight and telling us about the awesome book that you created. What's the name of the book again?
Oh, it's ADHD and Sex, and it's a workbook for exploring sexuality and relationships. There's too many words in the title. There's the other thing, but here it is there. ADHD and Sex, workbook.
It's
awesome.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, you said your friend designed the cover, right?
Yeah, so it's a neighbor that did the cover, and then all the art inside is also, it's actually another neighbor's child, another neighbor's kid.
So cool.
Awesome.
Art inside. So we really kind of, for me, community is so important.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, finding people in my community that were interested in doing this. And so we had a lot of fun.
Well, and
Incredible.
Dr. Lynn, one other thing too. So if people wanted to work with you, I know that in the US, like it's state by state. So how does that work for you? Like if somebody was in the United States and they wanted to work with you, is that possible or not really?
It's not really possible in regards to like sexual therapy,
Okay.
because we have all these problems with jurisdictions and all the rest.
Sure.
But I am going to be creating an ADHD and Sex online course.
There we go.
Perfect.
And I'm hoping that it's going to be live by the end of April, like it's happening this year.
Yeah.
And in the course, we'll work through some of these things together. So rather than you trying to like get through this huge thing, it'll allow us to kind of explore and learn more about ADHD and sex, and I'm hoping a really fun way. So
that's so cool. And I just want to tell you that over on TikTok, which I know you haven't been able to see, but we just had Jessica and several other people are commenting. Jessica said, I really enjoyed listening to this. It helped and it encouraged me. And I also got my laundry done too.
Woohoo!
So just want to thank everybody who stopped by today. We hope that you got something from this and that ADHD and sex can be things that can go together. And Dr. Lynn, thanks so much again. It was great to see you. And
Welcome.
we'll have to make sure that I don't know that I've gotten the workbook yet. I feel like maybe you sent it, and if you did, I lost it or something. But I want to make sure that people know about it.
Okay.
So this is a great resource that
Sure, yeah.
we get out to people.
Love it. Thank you so much for having me, guys. It was super fun.
You are welcome. Talk to you later.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Pretty cool, right, everyone? See you next time. Bye.